Hey guys, it's King. Welcome to another Autism Digest interview, where today we have another wrestler I'm extremely excited to talk to. He was the three-time WWE Hardcore Champion. He faced off against such individuals as Chris Jericho, The Undertaker, and my personal favorite wrestler, the late great Chris Benoit. He's now a YouTuber with over 700,000 subscribers. He is Maven Huffman. Thanks for coming on, my friend.
My pleasure, Caden. And the fact that you claim and are open about Chris Benoit being your favorite wrestler, I commend you for, because a lot of people these days want to stay away from admitting that when in reality, Chris Benoit is probably the best to ever technically step in the ring. So I immediately commend you for that.
Thank you, sir. I'm a guy who looks at the art, not the artist, and I'm sympathetic towards Chris's situation. Around the time of the incident, which by now people know about, he had the brain of a 70-year-old Alzheimer's patient.
Yeah.
And so, he didn't know what he was doing until it was too late. But let's get down to business. A lot of people remember you. It doesn't get bigger than being one of the many icons behind WWE. But for those who may not know you, do you mind telling a bit of your story in your own words to start us off?
You got it. And if you hear my dogs barking, I apologize.
No worries.
Like you, I'm a dog owner and a dog lover. My run in professional wrestling started with the show Tough Enough in the early 2000s. Reality television was starting to hit its stride, starting to get a foothold in pop culture. And wrestling being like every other medium, they wanted to take advantage of this. And I was watching Monday Night Raw one night and I heard good old JR say, "Have you ever wanted to be a wrestler?" And I had even looked into training to become a professional wrestler, looked into schools in San Antonio owned by Shawn Michaels. So hearing him say that they were going to start this show was music to my ears. Fast forward a few months later, I threw out a videotape, got picked to be in the original cast of Tough Enough 1. And after 9 grueling weeks on air, and then an additional 5 weeks off air of training, I won the first Tough Enough competition, which it's a little different than it is now. Didn't guarantee me any money, but what it did guarantee me, Caden, was opportunity. And I took that opportunity, signed my first contract with the WWE, and was able to parlay that into an almost 5 year career with them. And 20, oh my gosh, 25 years later, I can happily say I'm still connected to the wrestling industry.
And look where you are now. You're one of the most remembered icons of WWE, which leads to my next question. Do you have any fan interactions or experiences with the autism community that you want to talk about?
The autism angle in professional wrestling was not known during my time the way it is now. Obviously, we're quick to label people back in the early 2000s. If we see something that we don't quite understand, we just know whether that there's no label for it at that time, and we don't know exactly what we're seeing, but now we recognize the autism community for just the true beauty of people like you, of people that I've worked with in the past. And I have seen fans come to autograph signings. I always get asked the most intriguing questions, the questions that make me think. Yeah, a regular fan is going to ask me stuff about Tough Enough. A regular fan's going to ask me something about The Undertaker, but I always love the in-depth questions that I get, the questions that make me, huh, sit back and think I've never been asked that before. And sometimes the people that maybe we don't think we have something in common with turn out to be the ones that bring the most out of us.
Absolutely agree. We've come a long way since the Rain Man movie came out in the 90s, and
Yeah.
definitely a long way since the 40s when that stuff wasn't even common knowledge. And now it's a beautiful thing to see that we realize that it doesn't matter what you're going through. We're all the same. We all have common interests and something to contribute to the world, which leads to my next question for you. Wrestling locker rooms can be loud, unpredictable, and socially intense. How do you think that environment can impact wrestlers who may be on the spectrum or neurodivergent?
Well, it can be a lot of sensory overload. I know for me personally, I take a lot of solace and I always look to and I'm most comfortable when I'm alone. Even now, I look forward every day to around 10 o'clock at night because I know that's when my phone's going to go up. That's when I'm going to be by myself. And sometimes being around people, it's just a lot going on. Um, a locker room can be an intimidating place, but one thing that I think that has just been made aware is we're all different in one way or another. Even the people that you look at and you might immediately think, ah, they have it all. They have everything. I guarantee you there's something that makes them unique. And you talked about it, and I didn't even realize that just the steps that we've taken since the 1940s in less than 100 years, and it makes me excited for the next generation. And I think a professional wrestling, professional wrestling is one of the industries that attracts so many from biodiverse backgrounds. And I love that. I love that it's, and you mentioned the word earlier, and it did not go unnoticed. You mentioned the art of professional wrestling. Where you said you like the artist and maybe not what the artist has done in his life. I love that professional wrestling is an art form. And think about this since my time, in the 20 some years since I left, a locker room is a completely different place than it used to be during my time. In my day, it was, it was, you know, an environment that might chew up and spit out, what would be perceived as weaker individuals. Where now, with the cell phone, with just our lives being more out there, people are held accountable. And I think a locker room now is a more inviting and more welcoming place. Obviously, we know more just about just everything than we did 20 years ago. So knowledge helps us move past what might scare us.
I absolutely agree. I loved how you talked about social media holding people accountable. Because going back to what I was saying about Chris Benoit, looking at the art, not the artists, we live in a generation that listens to artists like, say, Notorious B.I.G., who has had his own controversies, or Chris Brown. And despite their past, we still put him on a pedestal.
Yes.
When and I agree with this. We're holding people accountable more and more and teaching people that actions have consequences, so you should be a little kinder. And going back to
Absolutely.
locker rooms for a little bit, I was a part of my high school cross country team, and that environment was definitely overwhelming at first. I was in a sport, I didn't know what I was doing, but I'm grateful that the cross country team was empathetic towards my situation and worked with me and helped me to teach them more than what I learned from them. So I definitely loved how you touched on that. All right, my next question for you is when you were active in WWE, neurodiversity wasn't a term widely used. Looking back now, do you think some wrestlers might have misunderstood to neurodiversity because of how they process stress, communication, or social dynamics?
Absolutely. 100%. I think we're always just fearful for what we don't understand, what we don't know. And we want to label what we don't know as just different or weird or, just words that are no longer even used in our community these days. But I truly believe, and I believe this with all my heart, I think everybody has something in them that, whether it be in the neurodiversity field or whether it be something else that maybe science hasn't even touched on yet, there's something that makes us all unique. I told you. And it's weird. No one would ever imagine this because it's God blessed me with the ability to never see a crowd that I can't find a way to fit in. I can go into any, if you put me in the hills of West Virginia, I'll find a way to fit in. If you put me in a boardroom in New York City, I'll find a way to fit in. But deep down, Caden, at my core, I'm my most comfortable alone. I'm such an alone person. That's when I'm 100% just at ease. But no one would ever guess that about me because that's not the blessings that God gave me. And there's certain stimulations that I have that that make me even wonder. I grew up in the 70s and 80s. Man, there might even be a diagnosis for me that I never looked at. I never looked into. Why? Because we didn't know about it. That's where I go back to knowledge is power. And if we can get a hold of maybe understanding, I'm sure if I looked into it, there's probably something that makes me want to be alone. And there's something that makes me find comfort in being alone. There's probably a terminology for it that I just don't know. But I love the fact that we're getting to the place in life where we can celebrate everybody and we can celebrate people that we look as, oh, that person's not like me, they're different, but we can still welcome the entire community in. That's again where I think professional wrestling, and wrestling has its flaws and faults, but I think that's another thing that makes wrestling so great. It's a big umbrella. It's a wide umbrella of fans.
Exactly. Exactly. It doesn't matter what you're going through, race, ethnicity, being neurodivergent, to loving who you want to love. We're all the same. We all have something to bring to the table. Well, it took us a while as a society to realize that, but the fact that we've grown and we developed resources over the year to help these individuals is honestly a beautiful thing. Which leads to my last question. What does the future hold for you? Given that by the time this interview is released, it'll be Christmas time. What do your holiday plans look like for you? Or do you have anything you want to promote?
If we ever promote anything, it's just the channel that me and my partner Zach run. One of the things that I'm most proud of is our channel is ran by me and him, and his brother does all of our editing. We're three people, and we've been able to accomplish what we have been. I take an immense amount of pride in that. So anytime I promote anything, I just promote the YouTube channel. I view our channel as something that's going to make you a smarter wrestling fan. You're going to look at the business a little bit different after watching one of our videos. It might make you see an angle of wrestling that you haven't thought of before. We recently did a video, for example, and in the video I talk about how I knew um, there wasn't going to be a pinfall. And the way I knew that was the guy's eyes. The guy whose shoulders were on the mat, his eyes were open and looking at the ref. Well, I remember during my time when I knew I had to kick out before a 3 count, I was looking at the ref to make sure I kicked out at the right time, as opposed to when I knew the match was over, I'd even shut my eyes. I'd look away. Small things like that that you wouldn't think about. That's what we're trying to do on the channel. So I love that a lot of our fans are either old school fans that maybe watched during the Attitude Era and have stepped away from wrestling, fans that did not like me and my run as a wrestler. I love those are my favorite comments. We get every week people saying I hated you as a wrestler or I didn't think you had anything, but I love what you're doing now. Shows growth. I love that we're able to that I, as a 49-year-old man, am able to continuously grow. And as for my holiday plans, little as possible. We have a big trip coming up in January, a big filming trip. So I'm just trying to get the last few weeks of doing as little as possible in.
That definitely sounds epic, and we'll be sure to be on the lookout.
What are your Caden? What are your holiday? I want to know what your holiday plans are.
Well, on Christmas Eve, before this release says, me and my family are going to be going to this awesome buffet in my area. I'm in Painesville, Ohio. The buffet is in Monroe, Ohio. Surprisingly, it's open on Christmas Eve, so we're going to try to have dinner there. But as for Christmas Day, same as you, I'm going to be taking it easy before I start my next semester of college.
What are you studying?
I'm a communications major. I'm going to be graduating in May of 2026.
Good for you. What would you want to do once you get out? What, you want to stay in this podcasting world? I think you're good at this.
Thank you, sir. I definitely would. But I'm honestly eyeing to do something in the communications world, specifically within the nonprofit sector.
Gotcha. Well, I love what you're doing here. I am honored. I do a lot of podcasts. I do a lot of talking more about me than I probably wish you care to, and probably talk a little bit more about wrestling than I care to as well. But this was an honor, and
Thank you, sir.
I am a fan. I am a fan of yours, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Anyways, that's going to do it for this interview, guys. Thank you so much to Maven for coming on and sharing his perspectives. If you guys want to see more amazing interviews, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the Autism Digest channel. Get our latest issue that's out now, and be on the lookout for our next issue that comes out in February. You can get it by going to autismdigest.com, and be on the lookout for the audio file to be posted on our Spotify. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.